Krishna. And offer some prayers to Srila Prabhupada before we begin. Hare Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swam Tinamane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. And I have to need to share Bhagavad Gita. So I haven't done that yet. 1 second. Let me bring that up. Okay. So in the meantime, someone would like to read when we get there. Now I have to come back here. Excuse me. Share my screen. Share books, Bhagavad Gita. Okay, we're there. So I'm still moving a few things around on my desktop. Okay, let's begin. Hare Krishna. I just asked Mother Sahachari, could you let people in as they come? I see you're there.
Sure, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to make you. Do I have to make you co-host to do that? I presume I do. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
make a co-host. Okay, you're now co-hosting. Hare Krishna. Okay, Dhananjaya, you've raised your golden hand. Hare Krishna. So,
Hare Krishna.
Is that a reading hand? I presume it is.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. So again, if anyone's just joining us for the first time, you're very much welcome. And please, any questions, you're free to unmute and ask questions or put in the chat, or you can raise your hand as well. Okay. We'd like to encourage open discussion and questions. Okay, Dhananjaya, as far as I recall, we are on text 20. Is that correct with everyone? Yeah, yesterday we did text 18 and 19. Okay, off we go. Hare Krishna. Let's see where the Lord takes us today in our discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. Okay, Dhananjaya.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Tyaktva karma phala sangam nitya tripto nirashaya karmanyabhi pravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti sha. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. Purport. This freedom from the bondage of actions is possible only in Krishna consciousness when one is doing everything for Krishna. A Krishna conscious person acts out of pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he has no attraction for the results of action. He is not even attached to his personal maintenance, for everything is left to Krishna. Nor is he anxious to secure things, nor to protect things already in his possession. He does his duty to the best of his ability and leaves everything to Krishna. Such an unattached person is always free from the resultant reactions of good and bad. As it is, though he were not doing anything. This is the sign of akarma, or actions without fruitive reactions. Any other action, therefore, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is binding upon the worker, and that is the real aspect of vikarma, as explained herein before.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So in these verses are very wonderful verses. It reminds us of similar verses in the 12th chapter, where actually Krishna is discussing the characteristics of a devotee. You might say the next verse, it speaks of a advanced devotee. So this is describing, the characteristics of a devotee. Yeah. So any questions or comments here? First thing is we should not give up work. Sorry about that. Work is a part of human life. Yeah, we cannot avoid it. Although some people do their best to. Yeah. But it's incumbent upon us. I think Krishna explains that one cannot even maintain his physical body without work. But we should be detached, or we should be satisfied, or we should be detached from the fruits of the work. This is the idea, which is not so easy, because for most people, the only reason they do work is to get the fruits. So why work then? I could ask that a question. So why should we work? Well, we have to maintain our body, but I'm looking for something else. Why should we work?
Prabhu, can I?
Please, yes.
So, work is not a slavery. Work not for support of body, but work is for our realization. Work, it's different definition. People understand work now differently, but in Vedic times, whatever, people were working to, how to say, because of a nature. It's not just to work for money, what you don't like or you don't want to do. Like nowadays, people going to the office, they hate their work, they hate what they're doing. No, it wasn't like that. People were working because it's, of course, it support themselves, but it's like Varnashram Dharma, what I want to say, you know. And women, they always been working. In families, in big communities, they were working. One woman was doing cooking, another was cleaning, another looking after kids, and they were how to say, expressing themselves to do job they want. It's not job, it's not work, but it's expression of themselves. And it was work they can't live without. They were not thinking about the money, but how to enjoy that work. We were enjoying. This is the way of living. This is way of living. It's not actually what we understand nowadays.
Yes, thank you, Mother Jambavati. I think she's Mother Jambavati is creating a picture here of actually an ideal picture, which was there, as we often say, in the Vedic context, where everyone was engaged in according to the natural proclivity. And that work would be it, as she's saying, it wouldn't be, as Prabhupada, I think he said in the previous purport, ugra karma, or nasty, or work, nasty work. So, but in this day and age, unfortunately, to make meat, to maintain one's family, often one is working according just to the amount of money they can make, and sacrificing even in so in other words, they may do something which they don't specifically like, just to get enough money. I mean, unfortunately, that's the state of the world we're in. But these next verses will be described, even if one is forced to engage in an occupation which is not according to their psychophysical nature, or is not their first choice as such, but by Krishna consciousness, one can, or by adopting Krishna consciousness, one can actually, one can actually work in sometimes in what otherwise might be a difficult situation. Anyway, don't know if that made sense. But thank you, Mother Jamavati. There's a long something from here on the chat. But the point I'm trying to get to, perhaps, is we work as sense of dutiful. Why should, if we're not attached to the results, then we're working out of a sense of duty. And Mother Jamavati nicely brought up about the natural context of in a Vedic setting, where that duty is actually doing one's duty is natural, and it's very encouraging. Anyway, Hare Krishna. And let's just read here. This is from, you can see in the chat here, devotees can also see, from Neto Shavich, if I pronounce that right. I can say about myself, I work even I have much more than I ever had. I work because it satisfies me. It tells me that independent. In my life, it's like a computer game. I was without money and it was hard, and slowly I built my business. So now I love to look all about it. Now I have a worker. Now I have a worker, and I'm responsible also about his place in my job. So I found some sense in my work. I'm sure it's not good intention in relation to Krishna, but it's like that. Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Sounds like you're engaged according to your, perhaps a dynamic, you're running a business, and that's good. You know, somehow you can link that to Krishna. I'm sure you can. That's a very good.
Prabhu, I want to quickly to add something. For
Please,
example,
yeah.
not to be attached to the results. It can be misinterpreted, because if you're making a dress, if you're making something, and you're not too attached to the result, you can end up in a disaster. Or even if you make cake, yeah, it can be in disaster if you're not attached to the results, because you have to know what the final result you want to see. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You'll be in trouble. So this has to be used sensible, because some devotees I've seen devotees in disaster, pretending to be not to be attached to the results, and the resulting in horrible situations.
Horrible cake.
No, what is, cake, you're making cake, it can be very tasty, but it can be such a ugly, you cannot present it, or whatever, and the outfit, you're making dress or something, it can be details, can be beautiful details, amazing, but the size or the way the final look, it can be horrible. So you should not ever be thinking that everything belongs to Krishna, I'm just enjoying doing, and Krishna should take the result. No, we have to be responsible and to make plan everything what we want to see. We have to know what result we want to see, and then slowly enjoying now and here, move forward. Because if we give results to Krishna, this is aparadka, this is misusing Krishna. Krishna work for me. I'll do whatever I want, and Krishna give me good result. No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a specific situation. Yeah, specific. You could say yes, definitely. Just like Arjuna, he is working. You could say he is doing it on behalf of Krishna, and he's going to do it to the best of his ability. And I think there's a purport somewhere in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna said, where Prabhupada explains that one should not. One should try and do one's best in one specific duty. Yeah, and shouldn't and should be attached to making things nice for Krishna or working nicely for Krishna. He doesn't use those exact words, but he says that doing one's endeavor for Krishna should be done to the best of our ability, and that should be motivated by a devotion. So yes, thank you for that, Mother Chamavati. Another couple of comments here. I work because I love my job. Jai, Katarina. Dhananjay, I work even if I don't like. I'm trying to think that way. Yeah. Katarina, again, I hardly get to a place where I don't like my work. My nature is to serve, and that's what I do at work. Yeah. Okay, any other? We got into discussion about work, but the point here, yes, thank you for those comments. Let's just read the verse again. So, abandoning all attachment to the results of these activities. So, Mother Jambavati has helped us to understand here that it doesn't mean we don't, or we're not concerned about the outcome of our work. It doesn't mean that. Yeah, abandoning all attachment to the results means that if results come, then we offer that to Krishna. We maintain our situation, and the results that come, then we are thankful for Krishna for presiding or for giving us the results of our activities. It's by his grace. But we work out of a sense of duty. So even if difficulties come in our work, because it's our duty, then we continue working. Yeah. Just like Arjuna, no doubt he has to face difficulties. But Krishna is encouraging him to do his duty and don't be attached to the results. That is up to Krishna. So abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, so engage in all kinds of undertakings. So this is a karma, as we described before. I've got a few comments here and took some notes. Chitta Swami says, one who is, nicely he explains here, one who has given up attachment to actions as a means of attaining rewards becomes tranquil and content. So this is the result of having this approach to our work or to our duties. One is always tranquil and content. Let me just let Raj Kishore in. Sarcharimurti, thank you, yeah. Without any need for acquisition or accumulation. So it's a great art. It doesn't mean we don't endeavor to maintain ourselves, but we are dependent upon Krishna. So Ramanuja, for your interest, he focuses on the word here in the Sanskrit, Nichotripta, which means he's totally content. So he's immersed in the Atma. So he's totally content. The person is immersed in Krishna consciousness. So in other words, therefore, that's the main thing that's going on for them in their life. And as a matter of course, there's some duties or some work that is done. But within themselves, they are completely satisfied. Yeah. And do you want to hear from Madhavacharya as well? See some nodding heads. Okay. The nature of spiritual intelligence is being always, he mentions again, tranquil and ever content. Yeah. Assumes the qualities of the eternally equipoised independent Lord. So one develops by association with Krishna through devotion, one develops the similar qualities as that which the Lord has. Being completely satisfied by the bliss they experience within. That's how one can abandon all attachment to the results of one's activities and be ever satisfied and independent. Comes from Krishna consciousness. All right, any other comments or questions here? Otherwise, we can read the next verse, which is text 21. And another comment here has just come up. Now I can develop my job and connect with Krishna. Oh, how can I develop my job and connect with Krishna? I'm doing agriculture, I'm buying land, I'm producing corn and sunflower. All in my job is about money and to have it more and to be bigger and bigger. It looks like I have to be a little bit greedy to be good in my job. So how can I connect that with Krishna? Oh, very good points there. Very good question. Anyone can offer some advice here to Nheto Shavich? You can see in the chat. How can she connect her work with Krishna? I can think of a couple of things. So she does agriculture. She's producing corn, etc.
Sorry, Murli Manohar Prabhu.
Yes.
Nedo, it's a gentleman. He.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, it's okay.
Nedoshevich, thank you for that. Excuse me, Nedoshevich. Here. Well, one thing I can think of is he's producing corn, sunflower, etc. So generally what's done, even in Western context, but generally what's done traditionally. When the crops go, or when the seed comes to fruit, or when you actually produce your corn and your sunflower, you should offer that to Krishna. You should have an altar at home, which I'm sure you might do already, and you have a picture of Krishna, and the first produce in season that's produced, you should make an offering to Krishna. Yeah. And another way you can do as well is how to connect with Krishna. The money which you get, obviously you're going to maintain your situation, but over and above that, you may establish a little temple in your place of work, and you may engage some of the money which you earn, you somehow engage that in Krishna's service. And there's many different ways you can do that. Yeah. So the fruits that come, you use some of those fruits over and above maintaining your situation, and you engage it directly in the Lord's service. Anybody else? Any advice there for
Keep a
Needle?
cow. Farmers normally keep a cow.
Okay, so you can keep a cow and you can offer that milk to Krishna as well. Yeah, so
Looking after the cow and looking after a tulsi plant is a
looking
nice
after Tulsi,
silent,
yeah.
a simple, nice way to start Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. Very good. So there's some more advice there. Yeah, you mentioned a good point here. It's the more and more to have more, bigger and bigger. Now you have to, you could say, when you're listening, I mean, you've joined us, you obviously have faith in Krishna. You're worshiping Krishna to, I don't know what degree, but you are a devotee. So just remember that along with your work, you should endeavor to do well in your work, but make sure you have some quality time for actually hearing and chanting about Krishna. So therefore, you may, or you may already have done, but you may take up the chanting of Krishna's holy name, say 10 minutes, 15 minutes in a day, and then gradually increase it. But you have, not that you, of course, you have to maintain your work, but you can, but side by side, you should set some time aside for reading Bhagavad Gita and chanting Krishna's holy name. Yeah. And further develop your devotion to Krishna. Otherwise, you could find yourself, if you money to have more and more, bigger and bigger, then you could have no time for the most important thing in life, which is develop your affection for Krishna. So it's up to you. I don't know your specific situation, but you might want to organize it in such a way that you get to a certain level of establishment in your business, and then you may keep it at a specific level, and not what we might say is over endeavor, where you become very frantic and very stressed, and you have no time to read, to hear Bhagavad Gita. You have no time to chant Krishna's holy name. So you might want, I mean, it's up to you, but you might want to think about capping your business development. Yeah. Maintain, you have a place for your family, have a situation, but then understand that the goal of life is actually to develop devotion to Krishna. So therefore, we don't want to become like gross materialists who just want more, more, more. And at the end of their life, they have no sense of Krishna consciousness. Then it's described, Shama eva hi kevalam. Then their life, sometimes speaks quite strongly, is useless if one has no sense of Krishna consciousness. So there's some advice, Nedoshavich Guru? Anything from anyone else here? Planting it because it's Krishna's gift to us and his way of sustaining that. Yes, so having a mentality, having the serving mentality always. Yeah, so being Krishna conscious. And also mentions you can donate some of your produce to a temple, or you can do a food for life program. You can give it to, you can help persons who are in need of food. Yeah. What do I have to think when I give money to have more, or what my idea have to be? My desires will be materialistic. Is it good or not? Well, you just don't just make money, but also develop Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Also have a program, set time aside for your development of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it will be just materialistic.
Hello, I realized when I gave some small amount of money, I have back about 10 or 100 more. So that is my realization. So it what I'm thinking that somehow my mind is always materialistic. Even I'm good, even when I'm doing good things, I take back also materialistic things. That is what I realized.
Yeah, this is Nejo speaking. This is Nedo Shavich. Is this you speaking now? Was that you just now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I missed that. I think you said you give and then you get more back than what you gave. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, I had a few situations when I gave some small amount of money to a person who is connected with Krishna consciousness, and I realized that whenever I give money, also I take back from some reason. I also have much more money.
Jai. That's Krishna. So it sounds like you already have realization of this, of the benefits of giving to Krishna. You will not be the loser, as you're already experiencing. Yeah, Krishna will take care of you. Yeah, the more you dovetail the fruits of your work with Krishna consciousness, then you will never be the loser.
So my point is this:
Yes.
maybe it's good if some people are praying, and we others who are not that good in that, we have to support them, and maybe that is the best. Someone have to pray because he is good in that, and I'm not that good. I'm not sure. I'm also too old. I'm 51 now. Maybe it's too late. So I have to do my job and to maybe support bhaktas and devotees.
Yes, you can do that for sure. But try to set some time aside for yourself as well, for your own spiritual development. It doesn't mean you have to spend the same amount of time, say, perhaps the devotees might do living in a temple. But you should have some time where you can chant Krishna's holy name. And you'll find that that will also assist you and also help you in your business. And there's always, don't worry, 50 or 51 is as good as time as any for taking up Krishna consciousness. So you're going to get, what I'm trying to say is that you're going to get, yes, there's what you call the brahmacharis, or full-time engaged in service directly linked to the temple. Just like there's many devotees here, most of them live outside the temple, so they're not engaged in exactly the same manner as those within the temple, but they're developing Krishna consciousness within their situation, no matter what their job is, and they're developing Krishna consciousness. They're setting time aside. Okay, so you might want to think about that, how you can do that. Okay, thank you for nice for nice inquiring question. I hope this discussion is helping. Hare Krishna.
Can I ask some more questions in the future?
Please. Yes, yes.
Okay, I will feel free.
Okay, no, yes, please feel free to ask anytime. Okay, let's read text 21. Let's have a reader. I'll have to choose someone. Okay, Mother Rajkishore, you can read for us.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Nirashiryata chittatma tvatta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilvisham. Translation. Such a man of understanding acts with mild mind and intelligence, perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus, working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. Purport. A Krishna-conscious person does not expect good or bad results in his activities. His mind and intelligence are fully controlled. He knows that because he is a part and parcel of the Supreme, the part played by him as a part and parcel of the whole is not his own activity, but is only being done through him by the Supreme. When the hand moves, it does not move out of its own accord, but by the endeavor of the whole body. A Krishna-conscious person is always dovetailed with the supreme desire, for he has no desire for personal sense gratification. He moves exactly like a part of a machine. As a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance, so a Krishna-conscious man maintains himself by his work just to remain fit for action in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. He is therefore immune to all the reaction of his endeavors. Like an animal, he has no proprietorship even over his own body. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills the animal in his possession, yet the animal does not protest, nor does it have any real independence. A Krishna-conscious person fully engaged in self-realization has very little time for falsely possess any material object. For maintaining body and soul, he does not require unfair means of accumulating money. He does not, therefore, become contaminated by such material sins. He is free from all reactions to his actions.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting, Purple, especially on the questions that Nadu was asking and the discussion that we had. This is speaking about someone who's a perfected devotee. Actually, I was reading the commentary on this by Bodhijan. So this speaks of a highly advanced, perfected devotee. Yeah, but it's speaking about here. It's not speaking about a life of renunciation. It's speaking about how a person carries themselves and how they move within the world, although engaged in their specific activities. Yes. Any comments or questions here? See, Mother Chandravali's looking there. You have to unmute if you need to say something, Mother.
I'm okay. I'm just thinking about all these things.
Yeah. So good to keep the context. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. So this is the spirit he's advising that Arjuna work in or do his duty. Yeah. Not expect good or bad results in his activities. His mind and intelligence are fully controlled. Yes. Okay. If there's no questions here or comments, we can read another verse. Anyone else like to read the next verse, 422? Just a short purple. Okay, let me find a reader. Anyone like to read?
Can I read?
Yes, you can, please.
Okay, thank you. Text 22. Yadracha labha santushto dvanbhavito vimatsara samasiddhava asuddhau cha kritva pina nipthayate. He who is satisfied with gain, which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. Purport. A Krishna conscious person does not make much endeavor even to maintain his body. He is satisfied with gains which are obtained of their own accord. He neither begs nor borrows, but he labors honestly as far as is in his power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. He is therefore independent in his livelihood. He does not allow anyone's service to hamper his own service in Krishna consciousness. However, for the service of the Lord, he can participate in any kind of action without being disturbed by the duality of the material world. The duality of the material world is felt in terms of heat and cold, or misery and happiness. A Krishna conscious person is above duality because he does not hesitate to act in any way for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, he is steady both in success and in failure. These signs are visible when one is fully in transcendental knowledge. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So again, this we can apply this. We can apply this to our specific work or whatever we're doing. To be satisfied, it's not so easy with gains which come of their own accord. But very important here, what caught my attention specifically, is he is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. Yeah, I'll read that again. He's satisfied by whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. So there is going to be a certain result that comes from your endeavor. Now, that result there is going to be a result from your endeavor, but what that result is, sometimes it will be less and sometimes it will be more. But we should have a sense of detachment. Now, that detachment, as Mother Jambavati brought out, I think, doesn't mean being lazy or doesn't mean neglecting one's specific duty. Like, again, going back to Nado's very interesting question. So he's going to work very diligently to the best of his ability. But at the end of the day, we understand that the results always rest in Krishna's hands and by Krishna's grace, especially we could say a farmer who's working with the natural elements, the earth, and is dependent upon the rain and the sun, etc. You can do everything you can to create a good field and plant a good seed, but at the end of the day, where we are dependent upon the rain, which is dependent upon the grace of Krishna. Yeah, so that gives a sense of detachment. So, for example, the opposite of this is someone who's very materialistic. When the results don't come, they're going to be very agitated and very disturbed. They may be, and that might then influence their specific work. Yeah, for instance, a classic case of a boss, for example, who's very materialistic, and the profits are not going to plan, then often what can happen is that the boss becomes very antagonistic or very unpleasant to the workers. Why? Because he's attached. It's a fine balance. We have to be attached to the good result, but at the end of the day, we kind of put our hands up in the air and say, ultimately, everything's dependent upon the Lord. Everything's dependent upon Krishna. And you go on working in that way. So that's why in the previous verse, I think in the purple, it said, yeah, the dualities of this world, like, yeah, here in this purple. So if we link our work to Krishna, as we gave some advice there for Nedu, we spiritualize our work, so it becomes a devotional practice. Yeah. Then here, we will not be disturbed by the dualities that come. And Prabhupada says the duality of material world felt in terms of heat and cold, misery and happiness. No doubt, it's not an easy. This is describing about a stage of developed Krishna consciousness. You know, when one rises above the dualities. And a note here from Shuta Swami, I found this interesting. He says, someone who works in this spirit, then they do not become tainted by the disease of materialism while performing their natural functions that occur to ensure bodily maintenance. You follow that? So by being Krishna conscious, although we're doing externally what looks to be just like material activities, because we're Krishna conscious, those activities will not be binding to us, because we're doing it on behalf of Krishna, and we're doing it for Krishna, and we're doing it being dependent upon Krishna. Yeah. So therefore, what seems to be, so again, it gets back to this point, it seems this is inaction in action. It's a karma, because through our developed consciousness, we have linked our work or our life up to Krishna. So we are endeavoring, just like everyone else, we are working, we are tilling the field or whatever it may be, we are in the office. But because we're doing it out of a sense of, or because we're Krishna conscious, then that is a karma. Then there's no materialistic bindings to our work. So this is called the art of work. This is what the whole Bhagavad Gita is about. It's about the art of work. Yeah. Any questions or comments upon that? More or
I
less.
think Shilpakarini Mataji has got a question. She raised her
Yes, sorry,
hand.
Mother Shivaka, I didn't see your hand. Yes, please go ahead.
Hare
Or
Krishna.
some comment,
Thank you.
please.
Yeah, I want to just make connection with this word vimatsaraha, free from envy.
Oh, very
Again,
good.
I was reading in Srimad Bhagavatam, instruction for civilized human beings. It's a 15th chapter, shloka number 8. To those who wants to progress in higher religion, it is advised to reject all envy on all living entities, whatever it is shown through the body, words, or mind. There is no religion higher than this. So if we want to get civilized, we need to somehow be free from envy, like it is said in this shloka in the Gita also. And
Yes,
it is
thank you.
it is advised to actually serve the devotees. That's one advice, how to get free from envy. And also Krishna later on said to Arjuna, I'm telling you this because you are my friend and you are not envious on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also I want to just say how for me, Srila Prabhupada is a perfect example, one who is steady in both success and failure. So Srila Prabhupada, even we can say materialistically, he has some failures when he was starting. Yes, printing back to Godhead and coming to the West and like that, but he didn't give up. So for me, he's a perfect example of this shloka, that we should not give up.
Yes, thank you for those very valuable points you made there, Mother Shubhakrini. So
We
first,
study. Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
thank you for that. And this is mentioned quite a few times in the Bhagavad Gita as well. There's quite a few verses where Krishna speaks about this vimatsaraha, or here is vimatsaraha, freedom from envy. Yeah. So envy means you are. Can someone just give a quick definition of envy?
I want to have what others have and want them not to have it.
Yeah, I want to have what others have, and I want them not to have. And later on in 16th chapter, Krishna describes this is actually a demonic quality, where you feel bad intent for those who have more than what you have, or who are more successful than yourself. So you feel you might be very critical, or might be basically you wish them bad, you like give them the bad eye, or you might even say something, or might even do something to try and put some impediments. And that's enviousness. Yeah. But a devotee is not envious. Why is a devotee not envious?
Prabhu, envy
Because nothing belongs to them.
Go on. Mother Gaia first, and I think then Jambavati, I heard.
I see, because nothing belongs to them. Now, Jambavati Mataji?
Now, what I want to say, envy is unsatisfied sexual desires, and devotees, why they not envious? Because they follow principles, and they actually satisfy all desires by serving Krishna. And why they unsatisfied desires and envious? Because they want love. They think that if I have somebody's that what he has, and because he is loved and he has all glories, all gratification, everything, I get what he has, then I get as much love, because actually whatever you turn, it turns for love for Krishna. They even demoniac feature, but they long for love, Krishna's love, because they want to be loved by Krishna, and everyone is looking for Krishna. So that's sorry.
Yeah, very good. More or less what I was thinking of. I was thinking, but if one is conscious of Krishna, and who is Krishna? There is no, in other words, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So if one becomes conscious of Krishna, there is nothing in the material world that they are hankering for. They have the best thing. You can't call Krishna a thing, but they have the best object you could possibly wish to have. There is nothing more greater than possessing Krishna. So even if, for example, if a lot of people are envious of those who have more wealth, or have more or say more wealth, but if you're conscious of Krishna, if you're actually Krishna conscious, then you have Krishna, then you're not envious of anyone, because Krishna is the most wealthy. Anything else on that? So
Sorry, I just want to say something. Srila Prabhupada said, it is better to be honest street sweeper than pseudo-transcendentalist. In
then a
this
pseudo-transcendentalist.
Yes, he said he does, no. Sorry, I just missed the point. But he labors honestly as far as is in his power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor.
Yeah,
So
yes.
this is
yes, thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah.
And also I was going to highlight the point you made about Srila Prabhupada as well. You can read, there's a book called the Leelamrita. Perhaps many devotees here have read that book, but it's a very wonderful book. It's quite a large book, but it's one of those books that you can't put down. It's very easy reading. It's very wonderful to read. And it gives different, and it takes you through Prabhupada's life, where everything, materially speaking, didn't go to plan. Prabhupada met many reversals, even when he began preaching, even after he had retired, and he took the sannyas order of life and started preaching. There was many reversals, but Prabhupada was not discouraged. Yeah. So a very good example of a Krishna conscious, of an example of this verse and all these verses here. Yes. And Mother Katarina, she's put something from Shankarshan Dasadikari, one of our spiritual masters, I think. Yeah. He mentions here, I was just reading, in material life, we become very unhappy when someone goes ahead. But in Krishna conscious, we are very happy when someone is more Krishna conscious than we are, because we can greatly benefit from their association. Very good point. And I think this might be specifically from Shankarshan Das Adhikari. So the only solution for envy is to become Krishna conscious by chanting at least 16 rounds a day of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and strictly avoiding illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. Hope this meets you in the best of health. Yeah, it's quite straightforward instruction to become Krishna conscious. Yes. Okay. Any other questions or comments on this verse and purple? Otherwise, we got 5 minutes left and we don't want to waste any time. So let's try and squeeze in another verse, number 23. Let's see how long, a very short purple. Perhaps I will dive in and have a read. So I will read this one. Chapter 4, text 23. Kata sangasha muktasya gana vashtita chetasaha yagnat acharya rattakama samagram pravaliyate. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. Purple. Becoming fully Krishna conscious, one is freed from all dualities and thus is freed from the contaminations of the material modes. He can become liberated because he knows his constitutional position in relationship with Krishna, and thus his mind cannot be drawn from Krishna consciousness. Consequently, whatever he does for Krishna, who is the primeval Vishnu. Therefore, all his works are technically sacrifices, because sacrifice aims at satisfying the Supreme Person Krishna or Lord Vishnu. The resultant reactions to all such work certainly merge into transcendence, and one does not suffer material effects. And this subject of yagna or sacrifice, that will be spoken of in the upcoming verses, I think 24 to 31. So what's being described here in the little time we have is that one's whole existence becomes spiritualized. Yeah. They enter into or becomes transcendental. Yeah. The work of a man is unattached to the modes of nature and who fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. So merge doesn't mean they lose their independence, but it means that for them, like we come to the temple, you may come to the temple and you engage in bhajan or you engage in some worship, and then you may go to work and you're doing something else which may not be directly connected to the temple. It may or may not be. Then you go and you associate with family members who may or may not be Krishna conscious. But actually, for someone who is actually as described, at this advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, everything they do, their whole life becomes a source of spiritual enlivenment for them. Inside the temple, outside the temple, at work, doing one's quote-unquote so-called material duties towards family, etc. Because one is situated in Krishna consciousness, everything becomes spiritualized, everything they do. Yeah. This is quite a high level of Krishna consciousness, but this is what we are aiming for, to be Krishna. Any quick comments or questions on that in a little 2 minutes? Okay, everyone's absorbing that. Hare Krishna. Okay, perhaps let's just stop here then. And next week we'll continue from text 24. I was hoping, my endeavor here was to cover a few verses today. So that was good. And we can begin next Tuesday on text 24. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us for this discussion. Some very nice points were brought out there. Again, this is like a meditation for our work, for moving in this world. These verses are very good, what we just heard about what is example of a Krishna conscious person. How do they work? What is how are they moving in the world? So heard about that today. Okay, thank you everyone. I wish you a wonderful weekend and look forward to our Sangha next Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay, Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Bhagavad
Thank you,
Gita.
Prabhu.
Hi.
Thank you.
Haribo, Hare Krishna.
Purna Manohara Prabhu ki jai. Thank you so
Jai.
much.
Brahmavati Ki Jai.
No. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.